Today is a very important meeting for EPIC. We are bringing the supply chain on photonic device manufacturing for medical devices, but we also want to share a very important statement based on the learnings of the last 16 years of EPIC. Right, here is a challenge for you. Do you know that it takes a decade or longer for most innovative photonic companies to get their breakthroughs into new medical devices? Because this is how it works today. Let's take an example. Photonic company A develops a breakthrough technology. It could be a new photoacoustic system for more comfortable breast imaging, or a Raman instrument for in vivo skin analysis, or maybe a new hyperspectral camera. There are hundreds of European examples, but they all share the same story. It goes like this. Step 1. Photonic company A makes a proof of concept. Step 2. Company A knocks on the door of the large medical system integrator, the client that they dream of having. Step 3. System integrator does not open the door. Why? Concerns for competition? Fear of losing IP? We will never know the real reasons. Step 4. Company A does not give up. They approach medical doctors to validate if their proof of concept could save patients' lives. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. Step 5. Medical doctor tries it out and it works. So he or she follows the great Hippocratic Oath to teach the secrets of medicine to future generations. How? By publishing a paper. Step 6. Company A, happy that their concept is useful, goes back to the system integrator. He may or may not open the door this time, and when he does, his answer is often, "You published it, where is your IP now?" Step 7. Persistent company A still does not give up. He wants the device in doctors' hands. He raises capital from investors and develops the full clinical system himself. By the time they go through all the regulation hurdles, 10 years have passed. And if company A has not succumbed to the financial valley of death, the device is finally in the medical market. Those 10 years could have been reduced to 5 or even 2, but only if the system integrator had been on board from the beginning. They could integrate company A's module into an already validated and tested system. If you have an innovation in space, would you speak first to an astronaut or to the European Space Agency? If you have an innovation in avionics, would you speak first to Thales, Airbus, or Safran, or to the airline pilot? The answer is obvious. That's why our meeting on March 29th will bring the entire value chain together, including medical system integrators, to share this challenge that we want to solve. And to those medical system integrators, tell me that you are setting up incubator programs in Europe to nurture new startups and scale-ups. Tell me that innovative SMEs have an entry point into your company to offer innovative technology that can propel Europe ahead of the game. I would love to hear that. Let the discussion begin just as European summertime dawns. Write it down. It's important to all of us. March 29, 3 p.m. And to those medical system integrators, to those Stryker, Olympus, Boston Scientific, I'm going to keep knocking and knocking. My name is Jose Pozo. I'm the CTO of the largest photonic association worldwide. Companies here make technology that can save lives, and we want this technology in the market as soon as possible. Thank you very much. And now, let's start the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, EPIC keeps growing. We are almost 700. Last time I checked, I think 1 or 2 members away. Carlos really wants to announce this in 2 weeks when we have our annual general meeting. I'm so excited. We're going to have 700 members. I have already a sticker prepared to put in front of this. EPIC keeps growing, but we do it because of the fantastic support of all the members, and also because of the hard work of 15 people who are dedicating their lives day and night and weekends to make sure that we keep growing in the European industry, that we make a sustainable European ecosystem. My 15 colleagues are very excited that we are putting here together. We keep knocking on the large companies to make sure they get the technology of the EPIC members, and we're going to continue doing that. Today, we already can announce that all the online technology meetings all the way to summer holidays are already scheduled. So please register yourself for the meetings that are relevant to you. We have, I think, a little bit for everyone, from laser optics to interactive photonics, for laser micromachining to VCSELs, for new photonic solution for microscopy, all the way to a roadmap for 400G Ethernet optics. If you are active in photonics, I'm sure you find something relevant for you in those meetings. And also in 2021, for the first time ever, we are actually supporting the quantum industry. And in the quantum industry, the next meeting is on the 9th of April. Mark it down, especially if you are interested on QKD, quantum key distribution, or the quantum internet. But today is all about medical devices. And of course, first of all, I would like to acknowledge the amazing support we keep getting from our media partners, PhotonicsViews, Medical Devices, Electro Optics. Thank you very much for the great work you're doing communicating what EPIC is doing to the entire world. But most important, this event wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors today. From Belgium, Caeleste, they make customized CMOS imaging sensors, one of the first SPAD developers for automotive. From Italy, CareGlance, they make OCT, integrated OCT sensors for endoscopy and other applications, all the way to the Ophthalmology. Imasenic, all the way from Spain, they make customized CMOS solutions. Chroma, if you're looking for coatings or you're looking for filters, this one of the leading filter manufacturer for optics. But you're looking for laser diodes for the medical market, then you need to go to Lumics, specialized in medical device manufacturing. They make the best laser diodes suitable for medical applications. And if you are looking for microscopy solutions, then you get to Prospective Instruments, great in multiphoton microscopy solutions. You're looking for laser diode manufacturers, you go all the way to Finland and you talk to Modulight. They make the customized growth and the manufacturing of gallium arsenide-based laser diodes, so the way to integration into medical devices. Also, Rockley Photonics, one of the companies is every day in the news. Rockley Photonics, they started making interactive photonics for datacom telecom sector, but now they are supplying it to many other applications. You are seeing what silicon photonics can do in medical. Then you talk to Rockley and you make sure you make it into your product. And finally, for all the optical design community in the world, I hope you love Zemax as much as I do, the great tool, the great software tool for optical designers. And the most important person in the room, the most important person in every room, the EPIC technical leader for medical device manufacturing, Dr. Elena Beletkaia, is going to tell us what's going to happen in the next 2 hours. Dr. Beletkaia, what's going to happen?
Hi, Jose. Thank you for introduction. Well, in a few words, a very great event is going to happen where we will be discussing different photonics technologies and how they're already improving the lives of people and how they can keep doing so. We will see in different medical devices. We will look into the pathology. We will look into the anesthesia, so in many different options. But what is more important is that we have even more options in the room today. Here you see the supply chain of all the companies which registered for this event, and we have, from this we can build whatever medical device we can imagine. We have light sources, we have devices, we have system integrators, we have R&D, we have companies who already have a lot of experience in developing medical devices or it's integrating the system. So I think we should just take it off and get to discuss and to get to know what can we do with all these technologies in medical devices realm.
Thank you very much, Elena, for the great job that you are doing bringing the photonic industry together, also for the great job that you are doing bringing the European Commission also to the mix with the pilot line MedFab, which is supporting medical device manufacturing in Europe to help the companies go through this horrible valley of death that they are facing. I would like to tell everyone when the meeting is finished exactly at 5 o'clock, we always finish on time, exactly at 5 o'clock, you will get a link in the chat, just click on it and we'll go to another environment in which we can all talk to each other and do business. This is what it's all about. And also, I would like to remind everyone, you need to look your best because we are live in YouTube. And I expect this meeting to be seen by many, many, many giant medical system integrators. If you are live in YouTube, that means that, hello, YouTubers of the world. Thank you very much for being with us today. If you want to get in touch with any of the participants today, all you have to do is send me an email, jose.pozo@epic-asoc.com, and I will be more than happy to introduce you to any of our fantastic participants today. Please make sure also you use the chat. Use the chat in Zoom. Any question you post there, I will read into the Zoom room. And this, of course, also valid for people here with me in Zoom. Please use the internal chat to talk to each other and do business. Even during the presentations, I want to see you typing. I want to see you talking to each other. This meeting is for making business. And to make business in the world of photonics, to make business in the medical sector, most of the time you need to go from the proof of concept, or even you want beyond the proof of principle, TRL4 to TRL7. And this is the biggest challenge in photonic industry. To solve that challenge, our first speaker today is from Cambridge Consultants. Luis Diaz-Santana, Head of Ophthalmology from Cambridge Consultants. Thank you very much for being with us in this very important meeting today. The floor and the attention of everyone goes to you so you can tell us how you help the EPIC community go up in the value chain and make photonic devices save lives. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose. And you're a difficult act to follow with so much energy. After lunch, I'm not sure I'll manage to do something like that. I'm not 100% sure if you guys received my slides or you want me to share from here.
Let's start from your side because, of course, it works better when you do it your own. And if not, we'll do it from our side.
Okay.
We are prepared. We have plan A, B, and C.
Okay. This should be plan A.
It looks great. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for your time, for your attention. Thank you, EPIC, for inviting me to present. First than anything, I am presenting on behalf of my photonics colleagues. I work with them closely. I lead the ophthalmology team at Cambridge Consultants, but we are a much wider organization than medical devices. We actually work in many fields, from satellite communications to consumer electronics, including medtech. And we're very excited to be presenting here today. So what are we? We are a technology development company. We work with companies like EPIC members to develop the next generation products, to solve the most difficult challenges you have, to develop first-in-kind systems, to develop rapid systems to market, and so on. If you have a difficult challenge that you're struggling to find someone to solve, we are there to solve it. That's us in a nutshell. We develop very close relationships with our clients, so that 70% of our business is actually repeat business, and we've been around here for many years now. Since for 60 years, we celebrated 60 years last year. COVID didn't allow us to have a big celebration, but we're hoping that soon we'll be able to have a big party for our 60th anniversary. You can think of us as an external R&D body. If you think of any company with an R&D department, large organization, we are that R&D department. You can strip everything else, all your marketing, all your strategy, everything around. You take that off, and you only leave the R&D. We're there, and that's us. So we have highlighted in this matrix the areas that we think are most important for the photonics industry in medtech at the moment, from life sciences. Everything that has with COVID tests today has a some photonics in it. Of course, we have optics capability. We do a lot of work on surgical innovation, human factors. Our ethos is that is a patient-centric approach that we take. So we like to start from what the patient needs, what the surgeon needs, what the carriers need, and build up products around that. We can work with you from concept all the way to transfer to manufacturing, and we can be a turnkey product developer or just jump in at any stage of your development where you need some help. We do not manufacture. We can make small runs of manufacturing if you need for clinical trials, for example, but we don't actually run long manufacturing once the product is launched. I want to give you a couple of examples of things that we've made, so you get a flavor of what kind of things we can do. These two are examples of projects that we have worked internally. These are made with the explicit purpose of being able to show what we've done without any confidentiality problems. So this is not necessarily to generate IP, but to demonstrate our capabilities. And this first example is a chip-on-tip endoscope. That's 400 by 400 pixel sensor at the tip of an optical waveguide. That is almost a millimeter in 0.9 millimeters. It's can go through an incision of 1.35 millimeters. You can see the example at the bottom right corner. Could go into an artery or a vein to do an endoscopy examination. We think for ophthalmology, for example, this would be really useful for support surgical, some specific surgical procedures. All the electronics are on board. You don't need a separate system, and the tip connects via USB and is actually disposable. And this was started from actually an undergrad project that we had. Some intern students came up with a concept, and then the following year we converted this into this lovely prototype. And then the other interesting thing that we want to show you, this is a collaboration where we did with clinicians in London and India to demonstrate our capabilities on using data for machine learning and screening of patients. A lot of work has been done on diabetic retinopathy. That is a complication of diabetes in the eye. But what we did is we used those same images that are used for diabetic retinopathy screening to evaluate if the patient had something else called peripheral neuropathy, which is damage on the nerves, and it usually presents as loss of sensitivity in the feet. And this can lead to ulcers and to amputations. So we used data that had information about the retinal scans and the neuropathy information from the feet. And we actually managed to correlate and find out using deep learning that information in the back of the eye contained information about neuropathy in the feet. And we thought that was quite an interesting project. You can find all that online. We have published a paper on this. And I think that's my 6 minutes, I think.
Thank you very much. Those are great 6 minutes. Do you have something to add? Because I feel like you had still something interesting coming up.
Oh, no. Well, I really would like to open the floor to any questions. We basically work in so many things that is really difficult to give a real flavor of everything we do in such short presentation. But what I really want to leave you with a flavor of is that we are an organization that can partner with you to develop products, and we can have very rapid turnarounds. Or we can solve very difficult problems, or we can come up with new ideas to address problems in different way. For example, if a competitor has come up with something and you think that's great, but it's patented, we can work with you to try to find alternative ways to come up with similar solutions without infringing their IP. And the other important thing is all the work we do with you, you're going to be paying for that, so you own the IP. We don't claim any IP for the work we do for you.
Okay, that's very interesting, and I think it's a very important message. And I think we have a comment or a question, but he always has questions, from our CTO, Jose Pozo. Jose, what's on your mind?
Thank you very much, Dr. Beletkaia. I love this presentation. Especially I love the important role that Cambridge Consultants plays in this industry. You are very unique on helping technologies, photonic technologies, go into the market. My question is very simple. We see this flexible scope. What we have here is, of course, an optical fiber. Could you specify a bit more what is the process to get this optical fiber validated to be used into the medical industry? How does it work from the development, from the proof of concept, all the way to have this in a medical device manufactured?
Yeah, thank you, Jose. That's a really good question. Just to clarify, this is really just an optical guide. It's not an imaging optical fiber. All the smarts is on the tip of the chip, right? There's a sensor here, a CCD chip, effectively, or CMOS, I can't remember, at the tip. With all the cabling goes through this channel together with the optical fiber to connect to the endoscope. But answering your question, I think. It's a very strict process in general when you're talking about medical devices. We started always from what is it that the client needs, what is it that the market needs, and what is it that the technology allows. It's always that triad of aspects that we need to identify. Once you have decided, as you ask, there's an optical fiber that needs to go there. There are a number of beyond the whole creative process. You need to make sure that you're following all the standards relevant to the field that you're going in. If this endoscope is going to go into an arm, like in that picture, and it's going to be arterioscopy, then you need to make sure that you identify what are all the standards that need to follow. And those standards are going to tell you what is it that you need to worry about, like biocompatibility, resistance, flexibility, and so on. And then in parallel, you also need to be understanding what is it that your regulatory process needs to address for that particular product and market. And the regulatory process sounds more daunting than it really is once you understand it. The European Union gives very clear guidelines as to how to decide what type of products you have, if it's a class 1, class 2, class 3. Once you have identified where it sits, then what you need to do is to make sure that well, you engage with a regulatory agency to help you follow that path. But it's all about keeping your documentation and justifying your decisions as to why certain things are done certain way. And then you go to your verification and validation and so on.
In other industries, I know from the very beginning, the kind of materials that I can use, the kind of glues that I can use, the kind of manufacturing process that I can use. So at the end, my final product is suitable for automotive or is suitable for space. In the medical sector, the companies that I have here with me developing coatings, developing lasers, do they have already this kind of guidance about what kind of material is suitable for each application field in the medical sector? Or are we going to trial and error kind of process?
I to be honest, I don't know the answer if there is a guideline. I can tell you that is usually in ophthalmology. I can tell you, for example, for intraocular lenses or for contact lenses, we know that there are certain materials that existing lenses work with and have been used before. So you know by default that those materials are safe and you can use those ones. And there's a smaller burden into proving that those are biocompatible. But if you want to add a new coating, now you need to prove that the coating and that material are still biocompatible, that that them individually and the combination of them are still biocompatible, and that requires a clinical trial. So if there is no precedent of that material or combination of materials, probably you will have to prove that it's not going to harm the patient.
Of course, it does make sense. It's different from other industries, but I want to see how it works, and also I want to explain everyone how it works. We have a question in the room, all the way from the beautiful UK, CPI. Tom Harvey, what's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Lewis. It's Tom here. Nice to meet you. We also had a project on endoscope development, so I have a little bit familiar insight. I just wondered what specialist equipment's needed for interfacing that camera chip to the fiber at the distal end of the endoscope, because it's quite an interesting sort of market sector, isn't it? The chip-on-tip endoscope versus the imaging endoscope, and the sort of different challenges in each one. Why did you go for the chip-on-tip, and is it, do you need special kit, and is it difficult to do that interfacing? Is it kind of standard photonic stuff, or is there anything special there?
I think I wasn't myself involved in that project directly, so I don't have the specific details. And I would encourage you to follow up by email to me, please, or LinkedIn, and I can get you to talk to the team that developed that, and you can have as in-depth conversation as you may want with them. But I think that the fundamental of using a chip-on-tip endoscope is that you are less restricted in terms of the choice of optical fibers we could have in there. We're not forming an image with the optical fiber, so we could use a very cheap wave guide, light guide, just to deliver the light. And that also meant that usually you can have larger radius of bending on the fiber, that if you have a bundle of fibers that's forming a coherent image, those tends to be stiffer. So that's one of the drivers. So you have a more flexible endoscope. And in terms of what you need to integrate that way, I don't think it was terribly difficult. And again, I would encourage please to email me to put you in touch with the electronics side to do that. But pretty much the kit that we got from the manufacturer was enough to do the integration. It requires some miniaturization and choice of cables and soldering and everything at a very small scale. But I don't think it was a particularly big challenge in terms of positioning at that end. And then there was a big effort on the electronics behind to make sure that it was processed on site.
Luis, actually, we do have in the room one company that is quite well positioned in chip-on-tip endoscopes, Lighthouse Imaging, Benjamin Gray. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon to everybody. Yeah, thank you. It was very interesting. I was excited to see your presentation. Lighthouse Imaging, we are system integrators for medical devices, and about 90% of the work we do is chip-on-tip endoscopes. As a contract service provider, we design and manufacture imaging systems for other medical device companies. So we do this behind the scenes work all the time. And
could you answer the question from
Yeah.
Tom Harvey?
Yeah,
He's wondering about
Yeah.
if there is a specialist equipment needed for the assembly.
Yeah, so what I would like to say is there's a whole range. You can work off the shelf with equipment. One of the things that OmniVision has done is made it very easy to work with their parts. They have image sensors with integrated optics, as well as the video processing back end. However, one of the things that we've found is that to have a really high performance, high functioning system, some of those pieces may need to be custom designed. So I think the way to answer the question is there are ways to step into the development and the manufacturing easily, but in order to really get the high performance, each of those pieces can be tweaked and modified. And it takes a combination of analog electronics, digital electronics, and illumination to really get the best performance out of a system.
Thank you so much, and it is great, Benjamin, that you are here with us. We have a question for you from a fantastic Dutch company, NTS Optel, Frank Ernst. How can you? What question do you have for Benjamin, or also for Cambridge Consultants?
Yeah, maybe for both of them. I'm actually wondering, what is the state of technology at the moment? Can you already
Frank, most important, camera on. I want people to see you. It's super important in this meeting. The only thing I ask you. Yes.
Here it comes. So my question is, what is the state of the art for the chip-on-chip technology? Is it already 4K? Is it stereo or not yet?
I can easily answer that. You can have any resolution you want, really, for a chip-on-tip endoscope. The question is, how big can it be? We operate heavily in the minimally invasive surgery area, so we are trying to get the diameter or the size of the endoscopes down. It is possible to do a 4K chip-on-tip endoscope in approximately 12 or 13 millimeter outside diameter. And from there, the size gets smaller as the resolution goes down. So we're seeing the system that was just presented by Luis. It was 400 pixels by 400 pixels, so all the way from pretty small up to very large. So there's quite a range that is available. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Frank. And I'm really happy that you are at this meeting. It's very important for me to help system integrators like NTS Optel work closer with the photonic companies for the medical market. I want to go back to Luis. Luis, you are the head of ophthalmology at Cambridge Consultants, and you showed the work that you are doing for screen neuropathy. In the last years, I've seen a huge boom for adaptive optics manufacturers and wavefront sensor manufacturers. I would like to ask you if you've seen something in that direction, and also what would be your biggest challenge for the companies in adaptive optics?
Yes, that's a very good question. I actually spent the first 10 years of my career working on adaptive optics, and I'm very fond of the field. I think ever since adaptive optics has struggled to find a market niche. It is a fantastic technology and allows you to see individual cells of the back of the eye, so you can you can monitor progression of disease. It can be used on clinical trials to check if a particular treatment is taking effect or not for gene and cell therapies. Is fantastic. But those are very small markets, very niche. So far, adaptive optics as an imaging tool has not got the traction everybody was expecting it was going to have. I think in areas where it may get better traction is when it's done in combination with intraocular lenses or contact lenses or even glasses, where you can present the patient with a simulation of what they can see before surgery. So if you're going to have LASIK or you're going to have cataract surgery and they tell you, oh, this lens is going to solve all your problems, you have to go with what the surgeon tells you. But if you can simulate that immediately as a patient, you say, oh yeah, this is going to be a great difference, or actually I'm not particularly happy with how this looks. So I think in that direction, it's a much bigger market, and it may gain more traction. And I think Voptica in Murcia is working in that direction.
Luis, I have here with me the CEO of one of the success stories in Europe in adaptive optics, Imaging Optic, Samuel Bucur. Yes, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. The question is very simple. Did adaptive optics reach the niche application in ophthalmics?
Yes, hi everybody. Yes, I am also the CEO of Imagine Eyes, who is developing ophthalmic device, including adaptive optics systems, deformable mirrors, wavefront sensors, and software. And yes, I agree with the first level analysis of Luis. This is a niche market for adaptive optics in retinal imaging en face, what we call en face view. You know, when you see the eyes directly. But if you integrate adaptive optics in standard modalities like OCT, OCTA, SLO, then you reach a high-end market of retina imaging. I mean, you are going to enhance the existing performance of this kind of device, and you can reach the top level of the market. This is my feeling is that this is the next generation, and we're working right now on trials on a new multimodal imaging camera, retinal imaging camera, including all these modalities. So I think this is the future of the imaging. This is a high end right now, and in 10 years probably it will become a standard. It takes time. It's true.
Yeah.
Luis, do you want to comment?
I just wanted to add that yeah, Imaging Eyes is doing some fantastic work in exploiting that niche, and one of the more exciting things I'm seeing coming out of that is, together with some of the work that you're seeing in AI, is the range of things that you can diagnose through the eye that are not necessarily eye related. What we did in that I had the slide was exactly along those lines, but there's a lot of cardiovascular work that you can diagnose through the eye, and Imaging Eyes, of course, been working on that. There's also markers for neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's and so on. And I think that's another big area that when you start looking at the eye as a more holistic window to the health of the body, adaptive optics may have a huge impact as well.
Thank you very much, Luis. Thank you all the participants in this first fantastic Q&A. The Q&As are far more exciting than the presentations, but your presentation was also super exciting. I want to come back to you, Luis, afterwards, because we're going to talk a little bit about photodynamic therapy. I want to check with Modulight, and I want to check with other companies to see how this is the status. And I know Cambridge Consultant is active on this. But now we're going to move to the second speaker today. We're going to talk about surgical imaging. And we have with us the founder and CEO of nView Medical, Cristian Atria. Cristian, thank you so much for accepting the offer. We want to see how we can help you being even greater than you are going to be. The floor and the attention of everyone goes to nView Medical, goes to Cristian.
Thank you, Jose, for the opportunity to be here. Super happy. Let me know if you see my screen.
I see it from the land of the Phoenix Suns. No,
right,
Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz. I'm sorry. From the land of Utah Jazz, John Stockton and Karl Malone. The floor is yours.
Very good. So this is nView Medical, and we're an imaging company, surgical imaging company, with a mission to make surgery safer, faster, and consistently accurate for patients. So obviously, it's all about making the life of patients better, and we do it from the, help them basically have better surgeries, better experience. So surgical inaccuracy is a major challenge. A lot of surgeries are still inaccurate and ineffective. Here we're showing the example of spine surgery. In the spine surgery, surgeons are placing screws in the patient's spine, and there is a high rate of misplaced screws. Like if that, there's more than 15% of misplaced screws. And the problem is in surgery in general is that it's a 3D problem, but it's still addressed with 2D imaging. So that leads to misplaced implants, which can lead to readmission rates and even higher long-term reoperation rates. So if you go for a spine surgery once, it's likely you're going to go for a second spine surgery within 10, 15 years. So of course, it's a big problem, and it's painful for patients who go into long recoveries, in many cases, multiple surgeries, and costly for the healthcare system. In the US alone, in spine surgery, we're spending $13 billion per year in this type of procedures. So we're a team from the industry, the team of nView Medical. We all come from GE Healthcare, which is the market leader in surgical imaging, and we saw the opportunity to solve this problem by basically creating a new type of imaging technology that would make the standard of surgical imaging 3D. So that's the part of making the impossible possible, right? It seemed impossible to create 3D imaging right there in the operating room in just seconds, and that's what we were tasked to do when we started nView. And that's what we have now with an FDA-cleared product, which is our surgical imaging system, which is called nView S1. So how does this technology work? So the key in surgery was, we don't want to interrupt the surgical workflow, and we want to be very quick at imaging. So in order to not interrupt the surgical workflow, we couldn't take the traditional approach, which is to turn all around the patient to image. And we came up with the new type of technology, which we are imaging only from one perspective. So you can see here how it works. So basically, we're imaging from a single perspective. This is the patient on the surgical table. And then we're able, with our AI reconstruction algorithms, we're able to take all this imaging data, X-ray imaging data, and then create a 3D image of the patient right there in just a few seconds in the operating room. So the output of the system is something like this. So basically, it's a volumetric model of the patient during surgery. You can look at it from different perspectives. You can rotate the model and see exactly how, in this case, how the screws in the spine have been placed. And then you can do things that you would do traditionally in diagnostic imaging, like, for example, scrolling through axial slices. But all that can happen right there where it's needed, which is in the operating room. That's our imaging technology there. And then, in terms of how does that compare to the other imaging systems, you would see, for example, you have traditional 3D technologies where you're turning around the patient. It's great in terms of giving you good image quality, but it interrupts the surgical workflow, so it's less useful. Or you have the 2D imaging system. So with this, we're basically breaking the trade-off between accuracy and workflow, and we're bringing the best of both worlds, basically quick 3D imaging. And what is incredible about this is that we're doing that because we're using AI, we're actually reducing the amount of radiation to just a tiny bit of the radiation compared to the traditional way to create images. This is at the center of the digital surgery. We can provide images for AI. We can integrate with robots or navigation and augmented reality and make all those technologies better. So we're more of a platform imaging technology. So why are we here at EPIC and how we can help? Of course, we're high-level system assembly manufacturers. So we rely on X-ray components manufacturers that can help us. We look for optical solutions to image the surgical field, aim the imaging system, position the imaging system, track the surgeon, or also display technologies. So we're looking for partners that can help us commercialize, found, and grow outside of the US. This is nView Medical. We're making 3D imaging for a 3D world to make surgery safer, faster, and consistently accurate for patients.
Thank you very much, Cristian, for your great presentation and for your great technology and what you do for the surgery to make it really so much safer and faster. And if we can go just back to your previous slides so that we can see this is a perfect slide for collaboration where we can start discussing what we have here in the room and how we can actually help you. But before we go to that slide, I wanted to quickly ask you also, so now we're talking about X-ray imaging during the operation. Are you also looking into integrating other imaging modalities into your system?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we've done some projects also with Johns Hopkins about integrating augmented reality and RGBD cameras specifically that can help us to see basically the patient from the outside. So we're looking at the patient from the inside. And then we would benefit by integrating and having an X-ray / optical system that can merge the outside world with the new world, with the inside world, and make a holistic image that can help us actually improve the image quality on one hand, but it can also help greatly in integrating with surgical navigation and augmented reality, because obviously the surgeon has to orient himself with respect to the anatomy of the patient. And the best way to do that is through understanding how the image is positioned actually, the image we provide, how it is positioned and registered to what the surgeon is seeing.
Absolutely. And a follow-up from my side, the question also, because now with X-ray also in general, you can look mostly at the bone structures. So would in general, if you implement other imaging modality in there, would you also be interested in introducing similar approach for soft tissues? Because they also deform a lot during the surgery, so that also could be something useful for the guiding the surgeons.
Yeah, obviously X-ray is, I would say, rather limited with respect to soft tissue, but I think the future is to improve that image quality, and we're seeing better and better ability to look at soft tissue. Actually, at this point, we're not focusing that much on that. I think with X-rays, I think in orthopedics and spine is a pretty large market for us already. I think long imaging is a very interesting area as well, but definitely what you're right in terms of the fact that things move, right? Like there is a shift of the tissue and all that. So from our perspective, the way to solve that problem was just the speed of the imaging. So all these technologies that rely on registering preoperative CT scans, for example, assume that the anatomy is rigid, and that is not true. So obviously the ability to image in real time, I think this is obviously the future that will allow us to kind of tackle all the problems of tissue moving and anatomy moving.
Jose, I see that you wanted to bring in discussion about the OCT. Do you also think about integrating it in the same system or just an add-on?
Well, I always say that the great mind thinks alike, but I don't consider myself being a great mind. So at least my little mind thinks almost as close as your great mind. OCT, indeed, we've been talking with many companies in the past about integrating OCT with X-rays, and I would like to check with you and with everyone if there is a roadmap here or a potential cooperation between the OCT, the optical coherence tomography, and the X-ray solutions. So tell me, are you doing something from nView, doing something on OCT, or scouting technology, scouting people doing optical coherence tomography?
Sorry for breaking in here.
Lars, from
Lars
DTU, all the way from Denmark. Thank you so much for joining.
I think the concept of using OCT here is perhaps a little far-fetched. It requires coherent light. And coherent lasers are still some way to go, and you need an interference system to do OCT. You can probably do something artificially today with all this nice computing that you have available, but unfortunately, I have to let you down there, Louis. Oh, sorry, Jose. The OCT is perhaps not the best thing for this application, but it's good for a lot of other things. Ophthalmics wouldn't be where it is now without OCT.
Right. I think one area where there is a little bit of integration with other type of imaging technologies and things we're looking at, but obviously where everyone has to focus also on their core. But for us, is more we want to be a guidance platform to other technologies. So this guidance platform can be to guide surgical instrumentation, but it can also be to guide catheters, or it can be to guide endoscopes. So a lot of these technologies are used in combination. We see our imaging device as a platform technology to help the surgeon know where the camera is. For example, we're looking at the case of this endoscope before, and the endoscope gives you the vision like out of a windshield in a car, and then you need some kind of technology that gives you that tells you where you are, like a GPS, right? So our technologies will be the GPS, and then we could be tracking endoscopes and other optical technologies. And then once you're tracking those, then you can imagine of fusing those technologies together and bring the best of both worlds. But everyone has to focus somewhere, right? And we're focusing on the GPS aspect, localization aspect of what the surgeon is doing.
I think, Cristian, we have a lot of things to discuss about this. Lots of questions are showing up. I love when that happens. I would like to go first to Tom from CPI. Tom, what do you have in mind?
Oh, hi there again. Sorry, I don't mean to dominate the questions here.
No,
sorry,
please do. I love when you dominate the show.
No. I wanted to ask whether you extract both the amplitude and phase from the image, because I know in X-ray imaging, the phase extraction is quite an interesting topic area, and we have a couple of companies in our part of the world who are working on this subject, and it can help with contrast enhancement in the image, and you can get more information out. So I wondered about that aspect of it.
Yeah, no, super interesting question. We're using more traditional, I would say, transmission information with respect to the X-rays. But I would say, when we started doing this, it seemed crazy that we would create 3D images from a single perspective. It seemed impossible, but we had the confidence that all this technology, like phase information, multispectral or detection of the X-rays, and all this additional information, we have I would say a general image reconstruction framework that can accept all this information. And the more we are kind of adding information from the sensor itself or from prior information, then we'll get better images. So we started with the belief that we will end up using all this data to improve the image, and I think this image can get close to diagnostic level. Of course, it is not. But at this point, at this version of the product, we're using just transmission information, attenuation information.
One more question is coming from Imaging Optics, Samuel Bucourt. I think the question is related to light field cameras. Samuel, what's on your mind?
Yes, I was wondering if, I'm not sure of that, but if plane optic imaging could be adapted to your constraints. Plane optic imaging, you have some device in the visible range that allow you in one shot to get a 3D image of the full field in 3D. And so there was a small camera, the cost was quite low. And it's a kind of multi-angle imaging. So you select the plane where you want to have the image, and you can really have in one shot the 3D image of your scene. And we are developing this kind of device in the X-ray for a project in Bordeaux, a project named X-Pulse. And for mammography application, so it's a quite low energy. I mean, probably about 35 to 50K EV, but maybe there is some solutions to have some global image. And I agree with the previous person who was speaking with the phase imaging. We are also working on phase image by Hartmann. In the X-ray field, and it gives some very nice results also.
Samuel, you need to get in touch with Tom Harvey from CPI. I think the two of you can do really good things working together.
Yes.
Super interesting, Samuel, to follow up after this specifically on what you were saying. In general, for us, everything that can constrain with more data, with no additional radiation, that can constrain our solution, which is the image, can help us actually. So let's follow up offline.
There's more questions for you. Don't worry, Christian. We're going to go now for fibers. The specialty fiber company of EPIC is OFS. Udo Fetzer, thank you very much for being with us. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello, Jose and Christian. In my mind is a fiber-based shape sensing. So using a multi-core fiber with engraved gratings, continuous gratings, and to localize where, for example, an endoscope is positioned in the human body. And that would be ideal in combination with an X-ray shot done in the beginning to make somehow a synchronization. And with a shape sensing, you can see then the deviation when an instrument is moving.
Right. That's absolutely. That's the concept of tracking, right? And we see the good thing with this is I think it used to be that you would have a static image, and then you track the deviation, and we know that this is inaccurate, right? Because the patient, everything moves, right? The anatomy moves. The anatomy is not even rigid. Yeah. So I think what we're bringing here in terms of potential is that we can re-image. So you have a hybrid model of tracking and then re-image in real time, and that will allow you to be more accurate. So yeah, that's absolutely true.
One more question. Well, actually, two more questions. The first one is coming all the way from Belgium, one of our EPIC members in customized CMOS sensor solutions. Jeroen Hout, what's on your mind? Caeleste.
Yes, thank you, Jose, and thank you, Christian. Very nice presentation. Actually, I was wondering, another way to enhance the image would be to capture at a single shot multiple X-ray energy levels. And then depending on tissues, it will have a different absorption, and you can actually capture within one image more information. Is that something that you looked at as well?
Yeah, we're interested definitely in that. This is going to add more information. And there was a question about soft tissue discrimination. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think this will allow to have much better soft tissue discrimination and go beyond orthopedics. Okay. So yeah, I would say kind of multispectral imaging, or X-ray colors, basically, right? Being the ability to look at X-ray colors would add a lot of information to the image, and I think there's a lot of potential there. So definitely, I think this is the future. It's not the technology we have now, so definitely open to explore this type of improvement to the technology.
Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting. So we essentially indeed did some experience with we call it a color X-ray, which is essentially that.
Right.
And I think it would be interesting if we can have if we can share that maybe after the call and see how it could help.
Fantastic. The two of you need to talk. One more question for you, Cristian. I think it's the final one coming from the YouTube broadcast. We have great companies watching the YouTube stream. One of them is Sumitomo. And Yoshiaki Shikata-san is wondering, high resolution image like 8K or 3D image? Where is the industry going? 8K or 3D? What is the first item in your Santa Claus Christmas list?
I think 3D is where we have a bigger gap with respect to resolution. And I was, there was this question about how much resolution do we need? There used to be the race in CT scans that you had to have more and more slices. But at a certain point, what do you really need? Like, do you have enough for the need? And I think that in 3D right now, I think there's a big gap, especially in interventional imaging. Surgical imaging, there is no standard, so we're kind of very far from the ideal solutions. And I think resolution, at least in surgery right now, I would say comes second. That would be my, my answer to that question.
My answer to the question of having you at this meeting has been really a great success. Many companies are going to follow with you. If anybody wants to get in touch with any of the participants today, contact me and make the introduction. Make sure, please follow up with all the introduction I'm going to make for you, Cristian. It was really great having you at this meeting. We want to continue now with the program, and we're going to go to one company that makes us all very excited. We are talking about microscope-based digital pathology. And we go to the company Augmentiqs, founder and director of Augmentiqs, Dan Regelman. Thank you very much for being with us, and tell us how we can help you in your microscope-based pathology solutions. The floor is yours. Dan Regelman, I think I can hear a little bit of your voice, not a lot though. I see your slides, crystal clear, with the beautiful Epic logo, and congratulations. I should have started with that. Congratulations on the Prism Awards. Congratulations, but we still can't hear you, Dan. Dr. Regelman, one of the Prism Awards winner of the last SPIE Photonics West Online. We can't hear you. I think you may be in the bottom left corner of the Zoom window, there is a mute button, but next to it, there is an arrow up. Next to the mute button, there is an arrow up. Click on it and select different options for the microphone. One of them should give you access, should let us hear you. Let's see. You know, one of the problems of making these shows live is that sometimes we have problems with the audio. I think it's something that we can solve easily. But let me see, Dan, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, so my team is going to contact Dan offline, and we're going to solve this easily because that's what we do very well. This is today our number 80 of the online technology meeting, so we are used to these kind of things. So don't worry, Dan, we'll come to you. But in the meantime, I would like now to go to the next company in the agenda. We are talking about a company that is in the news a lot over the last few days, especially the last Friday. It was for us great. No timing, nothing intended. It was for us great to have 26 in the program today to talk about the medical industry. Kimberly Netzeband, you are the Senior Manager and Strategic Marketing from 26. Tell us what you're doing in medical, but most important, Kim, tell us how these people can help you doing even better. The floor and the attention of everyone, oh my God, today goes to 26. Nothing intended apart from medical. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Can you see my screen?
Crystal clear.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation to speak today. My name is Kim Netzeband. I lead the strategic marketing for 26's life science vertical, which has definitely received a lot of news in the past couple of weeks. We're very excited. But we'll give, for those of you who aren't familiar with 26, I'll give a quick overview. and then try to highlight how we at 26 view the market and how we segment it, because we try to create really custom solutions, I think, for all of the sectors that we consider within life sciences. So we'll start at the left. So we're very often asked, where does this name 26 come from? And for those who do not know, it actually refers to columns 2 and 6 on the periodic table. And so when the company was founded over 50 years ago, the original core strength really was material excellence, and they were combining elements from these two columns to manufacture high-power CO2 optics. And since that time, 26 has significantly expanded their material expertise and their material sets, and now they're delivering into 7 different market verticals, one of them being life sciences. And we'll break that down a little bit more. Some quick details about 26. So over 2 billion revenue, annual revenue, over 22,000 employees, 75 locations. So really, takeaway is a global footprint, really with a broad market focus in other markets like communications and telecom, which really helps enable technology innovation across those platforms and across those markets. So moving more into the life sciences and medical market. So here in the middle, I think we're all aware of the global healthcare market being just huge. But I think what we have to remember is this really, focuses on every type of solution that can be addressed to healthcare. So pharmaceuticals, instrumentation, software, and whatnot. So what we've depicted here is what 26 is currently focusing on. And so if we start with the outer circle, we've defined the 26 market as life sciences. It's still quite large. It's very diverse by the images that you see within the circle there. So different material and different mediums of being analyzed by these within this life science broad market. The next level down, we define the targeted solutions as instrumentation, obviously very straightforward. And finally, on the inner circle, we define the current applications as anything that's optical or thermal related. So any application involving management of light and or heat. So altogether, we're really focused on life science instrumentation that involves either optics and or thermal integration. And over to the right, we kind of depict how we break this down even further into specific segments, primarily because the instruments and the applications within these segments are really so diverse. So biotechnology, really representing instruments that are used perhaps in more research and lab atmospheres with living organisms. The medical segment, which we're talking about today, representing instrumentation used in the direct treatment of patients. And then lastly, scientific, which is really encompassing the analytical and environmental applications. And so there is often some overlap between these segments, but it does a really good job, at least for 26, in creating and delivering application-specific solutions. So what does 26 offer? So hopefully this is a current product portfolio for life sciences. It's divided into product areas and divided by component to subassembly and system level solutions. Certainly not all inclusive, but hopefully it highlights some of our more common solutions. Starting with optics, all different optics from UV to near IR and IR. And really the components on the component level will vary between the segments. So particularly for, let's say, the medical market, we're delivering crystals, flow tubes, IR material, different types of lenses, and then that varies for the biotechnology and scientific segment. But then in the end, really, we're taking these component solutions and integrating into subassemblies and systems that you can see at the bottom, which really vary in complexity. So it can be as simple as, objective lenses, some not so simple, but moving up into more complex, illumination modules, spectrometers, full imaging platforms, oftentimes more in the biotechnology or diagnostic areas. And so we can move over to thermoelectrics. Again, 2 different component options available, really based on performance and cost, and then taking these components and building into assemblies for any type of life science or medical application that requires thermal cycling. So Examples could include PCR, sequencing, reagent handling, heating and cooling, delivery to the human body, and very often medical laser cooling applications. And then, excuse me. And then to the right, lasers. We have a wide variety of laser solutions. You'll see up at the top there, diode, fiber. These are addressing more of the visible wavelength applications. And then in the middle there for more near IR medical applications. And then again, integrating these into more complex modules at the bottom that would have integrated electronics or maybe incorporate multi-wavelength laser modules. So a broad product portfolio, and what we try to do is really integrate both at the component level and subassembly level to really deliver unique solutions to these three different markets below that I talked about in the previous slide. All right. And then lastly, to address what 2.6 is looking for, simply put, partnership. I think definitely on the system level partnership, and really to deliver solutions for life sciences. And this is what we want to stress is this is really from the material level to components to subassemblies and systems. And we really are trying to achieve this by leveraging global manufacturing and this vertical integration. And so perhaps to spark some ideas, we've summarized the technologies 2.6 is capable of offering here for vertical integration. Starting at the bottom with materials, you'll see different types of CVD materials, crystal growth, moving into manufacturing. Many examples listed here. One I want to highlight is the coating capability. So across 2.6, we have over 100 coating chambers, and we're specifically, primarily due to COVID demand, we'll be doubling our optical filter capacity over the next 5 years. Moving up to assemblies, again, this is what we call OMA, so optomechanical assemblies, optomechanical electrical assemblies, thermal subassemblies, and laser modules, but all within clean and darkroom environments. Design capabilities for new product introduction, and that can include integration of electronics, software and firmware. And then finally, most important, of course, is testing and quality. So we do have different facilities globally that are ISO 13485 qualified, and then a wide range of testing and reliability options available as well. And so finally, what we try to do is we try to implement these technologies throughout the entire design process, as you can see over on the right. So all the way from initial partner conversations or customer conversations to all the way to volume production. And so I think 2.6 is definitely would be eager to engage with partners that can really either improve this whole process or technology or benefit from them either way. So hopefully I'm not too much over the time. So I think I'll stop there and answer some questions. Thank you.
Great on the time, and also 2.6 is really great on the offering. So many different technologies, from the materials to the whole systems. So what I know pretty much from early discussions that 2.6 is also currently focusing a bit more on point of care devices. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit on this type of solutions that 2.6 is offering? Maybe you could give an example or just a few words about it.
Yeah, sure. No, great question. So we've been, in light of COVID right now, heavily involved in what we'll call point of care or diagnostic devices. So we tend to view point of care as anything that's at or near the patient. So many of these testing devices we would consider point of care. Specifically, we are engaged with many of the leaders in the testing environment for COVID specifically, and obviously other disease states will be, ubiquitously tested for going forward. But 2.6 is specifically, I would say, engaged on the component level and some type of more complex assemblies for these platforms. So providing the optical filters for signal detection. So many of these are fluorescence based, and the optical filters are critical for detection of the signal. And then, of course, on the thermoelectric side, anything that's PCR based is typically going to require some type of thermal management, thermal regulation in order to amplify the genetic material. So I think that would be our strong, our strength delivering into the point of care market right now.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of strengths from 2.6, and I guess if we bring in here also Peter from Endofotonics. Peter, are you with us today?
Yes, Elena, I just joined.
Hi, so it's great.
Sorry, it's a late.
Here.
Yeah, I had a late day.
I understand. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about Endofotonics, maybe even show a bit, and let's see if we could also have some common ground with 2.6 here.
Okay, I'm going to try to show a slide. Okay, it doesn't seem to be going on.
That's okay. You can also just tell us a little bit about Endofotonics and what you do. What are your developments now?
Okay, so yeah, so Endofotonics is a medical startup company in Singapore. We leverage Raman spectroscopy to allow endoscopists to be able to detect early gastric cancer in a white light endoscopy procedure. So basically, Raman signature from a cancerous and a non-cancerous tissue is very significantly different, and we can tell the difference using some form of machine learning that is paired to histology. So we have done that. We are right in the middle of a regulatory certification at the moment. And we have some good partners in the US as well as in China that help me to put this different materials, be able to put the solution together. So we're doing clinical trials both in China as well as in Singapore. Hopefully by the end of the year, we get CE certified. And then we begin some sales in the Southeast Asia region first, and then subsequently 2 years later when we get our NMPA, which is actually the Chinese FDA certified, and then we'll begin our sales in China.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really great. We have some other comments and questions, and as you know, we can never skip questions or comments from our CTO, Jose Pozo.
No, you should sometimes, because otherwise I talk for 2 or 3 hours. But to be honest, in the last years, we have seen huge developments on the laser diode segment, from the laser diode companies going all the way to making clinical instruments in things like photodynamic therapy. And we had the CTO of Modulight in the room, Petteri Uusima. Petteri, thank you very much for joining today. I love seeing your virtual booth at Photonic West online. We talk a little bit about the medical segment for Modulight. Could you comment on things that are happening and maybe what's going on with medical devices for clinical use?
Oh, hi everybody. This is Petteri. Thanks for asking, and it's been again exciting discussion. And from our perspective, what we are doing today, basically rolling out clinical lasers for different type of applications. PDT is one area, photodynamic therapy for basically for oncology that we are very active in, and this is used both in ophthalmics and kind of more like traditional surgical oncology settings. And what is interesting there from our perspective and the discussion here today is that as we are currently kind of more focused on delivering drug activation optics and things like that into different cavities in body. So we certainly would be interested in combining also with our technology the kind of imaging and those type of things. And because in many cases we are pretty much delivering light endoscopically or via fibers and things like that. So combining that with some kind of imaging tools certainly would be interesting as we go forward. So anybody interested in talking about those type of things, feel free to connect with me.
You have products that go from 400 nanometers to 2 micrometers for medical industry, more or less, 400 to 2 micrometers. For photodynamic therapy, what is the wavelength range that you are looking at the most? And in general, for medical instrumentation, for medical device, that the ones that you are targeting for ophthalmics especially, what are the wavelengths that are highestly demanded?
Well, wavelengths, what we are working on are quite often in visible range, but certainly there are some drugs, for example, that are being developed to be activated in near IR wavelengths, and that's interesting, of course, also from the tissue penetration and things like that. So, but typically these would be on a visible range.
We have a question from Sumitomo. They are asking about the 2 micrometer wavelength range. Did you see any new or current applications in the medical segment from the 2 micrometer laser diodes?
Yeah, we've been ourselves integrating some of those to our systems. So far, mainly in the ophthalmic field, but I know that these are also quite interesting. I mean, anything around 1.9 is interesting also for surgical applications, and other type of lasers are used quite a lot there. So we are certainly looking into that direction ourselves too, since we manufacture lasers ourselves, basically laser diodes in our own fab. So we certainly are kind of looking into opportunities there too.
Peter, you are one of the success stories of Europe on really coming up with lasers and go all the way to making instruments for the clinical doctors, from laser manufacturing to clinical doctors. That's a really long path. How long does it take to put a laser diode into a medical device system if you do it all yourself?
Well, it certainly takes a few years. We've been doing that now over 10 years, and there's of course a lot of experience on and know-how on how to design the products and get those approved. Also, we have currently one FDA approval process ongoing and a couple of CE mark processes in parallel. So there's a lot of things ongoing, but it's kind of once you set up this know-how, of course, it gets a little bit easier over time, but it certainly takes effort every single time you do it. 10
years. And sometimes all the companies reinvent wheels. They have to do things in parallel. 10 years. 10 years of time is a lot of medical innovation not sped up. EPIC needs to do something about this. Thank you so much, Petteri, for being with us. Listen to the next presentation. You are going to love it. You're going to love it. But before that, we have a question from Tom Harvey from CPI 226. Kimberly, Kim, listen to this. You're going to like it. Tom, what's on your mind?
Just Kim, sorry, I just realized you weren't really getting any questions directly to your presentation there. So my question is, do you make any of your optical filters directly onto optical fibers? It's just I was thinking that Peter is doing Raman imaging, and I guess we're always interested in easier ways to integrate the Raman filters into these fiber-based systems. So that was my question.
Tom, you took the words right off me.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I can't say for sure, but I do think that we actually coat the ends of the fiber rather than actually, you know, somehow affixing the filters onto the end of the fiber. So that would be something we could look into. Absolutely.
All right, Kim, thank you so much for being with us. I also have a question for you that was also asked in the YouTube channel. In the longer wavelengths, in the 2 micrometer segment, the same question you got for Petteri. Is there any new applications, any new moves that you saw from the market?
Right. No, nothing that comes to mind right now. I would say we're really, as far as the medical market, more focused within that near IR range. So applications going from, let's say, 800 up to, you know, the high 1000s. But no, nothing that comes to mind quite readily.
Kim, you have to listen to the next presentation. You're also gonna love it. We work with one company that makes microscope-based digital pathology systems. Augmentiqs. Dan Regelman. Dan, are you with us? Can I hear you now? Did you speak? Dan? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Dan? From Dan Regelman, founder and director from Augmentiqs. I think we have problems to get Dan on the line. In the meantime, we have Lars Lindvold. Lars from DTU. You are talking about laser lithotripsy as an application of 2 micrometer laser diodes. Is that correct, Lars?
Yeah, but that all depends on the power. I mean, right now you have the thulium fiber lasers, for example, from IPG, and they are extremely helpful for laser lithotripsy. In other words, crushing kidney stones, for example. So this is really something that's coming on, particularly since the old holmium lasers were big, bulky, and with flash lamps, and now you have fiber lasers that are small, compact, and can run at very high repetition rate. So therefore, I was interested, how far can you go with the laser diodes if you have a pure laser diode without the fiber amplifier, so to speak?
The thulium laser of Lisa Laser, also in EPIC, they are also fantastic. They are doing great job as well. And Lars, if I then congratulate you, the whole DTU is doing great job, and one of your spin-off Norlace is getting the achievements that they deserve. Congratulations on the Norlace group on the Prism Award winning as well. I want to check back with Dan Regelman. Dan from Augmentiqs, are you with us?
Dan, we still cannot hear you. Maybe you can try to change the channel for your sound. Okay? Let's try that as well. We can try to connect with you on the phone while looking at you on the screen.
The video is arriving crystal clear. Let's see if we can hear Dan.
If I may comment, meanwhile, what Lars brought up on this 2-micron lasers, that we've kind of looked into that, and I think what you are asking for, I think we are far away from that with diodes, and I would keep looking at the fiber laser solution myself.
How much power is it needed for breaking the kidney stone? Is there any number, back of the envelope number that we have, Petteri? Or Lars? How much power do we need for lithotripsy?
Several watts. I mean, some of these fiber lasers run all the way up to almost 20 watts. But I mean, it all depends. But 5, 6, 7. Whoa.
I think we are having problems with the sound of Dan. I think we only can hear Dan through the phone. So let's keep the video for the image, but let's try to connect voice through the phone. My team is working on that. Please, Lars, continue. 20 watts, you were saying, and this is of course heavily pulsed in the picosecond, I believe.
No. These are actually
CW.
They are modulated to about kilohertz. The newest ones. So the old holmium lasers were down to up to about 20 hertz, very high peak powers. But I mean, yeah, it is a decent amount of energy you have to put into the kidney stone to get it to blast.
Lars, now we are talking about lasers. Yes. I would like to ask you a question. In the ultra-fast lasers, in the femtosecond laser, I have lots of companies developing really ultra-short. I have a company in the room, I think Valo Innovations. Do we have anybody from Valo Innovations in the room? I think we have Oliver Proch now, CEO of Valo Innovations. Oliver, thank you for being with us. You make 50 femtosecond stable laser pulses. What is the key medical application? And Lars, what kind of advice can you give a company that make a stable 50 femtosecond short pulses?
Well, I don't want to give anyone any sort of advices when they are making the lasers, but I mean, this is a fantastic laser for eye surgery, no doubt about that. This is really where you where you see anything to do with soft materials like corneas or polymers or whatever you want to do. This kind of very fast lasers are extremely well suited for that.
Oliver from Valo Innovations, 50 femtosecond pulses. How do you address the market of eye surgery?
And let's say we're thinking about these markets, and yeah, at the moment, let's say we're just at the starting point, but it's definitely a market which is interesting, because I also think that you get a lot of benefits from very short pulses for soft material processing, and yeah, that's the idea. And in terms of the lasers, they're scalable in average power or energy, and that I think makes them very suitable for these applications.
All right, so I think we have solved the problem with Augmentiqs. I believe we have. So let's hear from Dan now. Dan, you got the audience so excited. I know you joined by phone. You had to unmute your phone because now it's our limiting factor. Dan? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. And we are all smiling at you. Thank you, Dan, for joining this beautiful afternoon.
My apologies for that technical difficulty.
We solved it. So congratulations solving the technical difficulty. And now let's hear from Augmentiqs. And most important, how can we help you? The floor and the attention of everyone connected via WhatsApp and sharing the image through Zoom goes to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me here. I'm Dan Regelman. I'm co-founder and scientific director of Augmentiqs Medical. And I'm excited to present to you today the next evolution step of probably the toughest field for innovation, a conventional optical microscopes.
And let's do it also with your presentation. Share your screen, show us the slides.
Sorry.
Just a green button at the bottom. You did it before. We know you can do it. It's coming up.
Okay, can you see that?
Almost. So the slides are still coming up.
Can you see my screen?
We see that you are sharing, but we unfortunately cannot see your screen. Maybe we can try to do it again.
Yep. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, now we can see it very well, crystal clear.
Oh, thank you.
So let's hear the story of Augmentiqs.
So I'm really excited to present you the augmented reality microscopy, probably the toughest field to innovate today in the field of optical microscopes. We're really honored to receive this year the SPIE Prism Award in Life Sciences category. So the microscopes are invaluable tool in many areas of medical research and diagnostics for more than 150 years. The conceptual design changed very little for the last decade and showed really slow and minor improvements in performance, in usability, and other things. So basically, microscopes from 80s are not much different from the microscopes of today. Modern digital imaging tools are accelerating to gain a significant share in these kind of medical applications. Yet there are many fields in which human eye still remains the major diagnostic tool for various reasons, such as co-reproduction accuracy, required image context, simply speed of work, or a wide variety of possible workflows. One such example is the field of histopathology, where the major challenge of diagnostics is the well-known principle of, in 90% of cases, I don't need you, but in the remaining 10%, I don't trust you. So that's exactly the place where the human eye and experience of a pathologist came to play. And the main tool for that is optical microscope. So we in Augmentiqs decided to solve this critical problem of connecting the optical microscopes to up-to-date digital tools, combining both of them in synergy, allowing to access to work digitization, data collection, and application of novel algorithms within the existing microscopes without changing the decades-proven optimized workflows. So how we do that? The Augmentiqs system is an optical module, which is add-on to any infinity-corrected microscope, this black box over here, just the way any microscope accessory fits, and it allows multiple functionality to be added to existing microscopes. The major feature there is augmented reality, where we can overlay digital information right on the optical field of view, like it's shown here. Probably if we look at the video, you can see here optical overlay of tools and annotations right on the optical field of view. So that way we combine the human eye reproduction of the image with the context and color and everything, and application of the results of novel algorithms, starting from simple annotations and morphologic measurements all the way to AI-based algorithms. So how we do that? It's technically three main features here inside this microscope accessory module that we developed. The first one is the imaging camera over here, looking in parallel with the eye into the imaging field of view. It has the same big field of view as the human eye perceives in order to get the right context of the region of interest. The second is the digital display, which projects the digital overlay right into the eyepiece, so the pathologist can see not only the optical field, but also the results of digital processing. The third thing is auxiliary camera, looking at the work area and providing three main features allowing to monitor the workflow of the pathologist. The first one is simply monitoring the magnification of the objective, which is important to get the right perspective of the dimensions and context of the image, to get the right sizes, and so on and so forth. The second one is monitoring the slide label over here to know exactly what specimen the pathologist is working with. And the third one is monitoring the position of the slide under the microscope in case that if some processing is done or a picture image is taken to the case report, metadata can be added to that image showing where exactly on the glass slide this region of interest was located. So if it's like taking a photo with our smartphones with geolocation, where each image is tagged with the geolocation. So here are a couple of examples: application of the algorithms, self-detection, and that thing appears right inside the eyepiece of the pathologist. So we can't. Our approach is not developing any own algorithms, but integrating everything which is available in the market. So currently we integrated open source ImageJ, QPAP algorithms into our system, and we're collaborating with many companies, including AI-based algorithms, just taking their ideas, their algorithms, and integrating them with our systems in pathologist microscopes. That approach makes these AI algorithms and all novel tools affordable to people who cannot afford or have no incentive to buy new hardware. Here's another example of monitoring the slide label. This auxiliary camera just takes the image of the slide label, knows the magnification of the objective, and certainly tracks the slide as it moves under the microscope. So from a pathology standpoint, he does exactly the same work he's doing with microscope every day. If it doesn't want to use our system, it just off, and the microscope is a standard microscope. But when the on button is pressed, then a lot of digital tools appear available without changing anything which is done today. One last thing is telepathology will allow communication between any place connected to the internet with the microscope, allowing peer review consultation between different doctors that can look at the same specimen and share annotations which are readily visible inside the eyepiece. and consult with one with the other about the particular case.
Dan, we lost the visual of your slides. I think we might be missing some valuable information what you're sharing on your slide as well, next to your story. Can we try to reshare your screen?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, I think maybe we would need to try again, or we can just continue with your story. And in the meantime, you can try to share the screen if it works or not. But we already seen so much and still excited to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, can you see my screen? Fortunately not.
Not now.
Now?
Yes, now we can see it again. Perfect, thank you.
Perfect. So this telepathology feature is very useful for deploying new tools and new pathology into developing countries. There are a lot of places in the world where the access to not only to new tools but also to knowledge is very limited. This way, doctors everywhere in rural areas of Africa or anywhere can just get a specimen under the microscope and get the expert anywhere else in the world and consult online about the particular case. And we have several attempts now in collaboration with different institutions to get this application up and running in, at least actually in 2 potential places in Africa. So one more important thing that we're looking into other areas besides pathology where this tool of augmented microscopy can be useful. And one of the most striking one is education. In case of, in this case, pathology education, you see here the right image, which is unthinkable today in the coronavirus era, social distancing and everything, but that's how students used to learn about pathology. These multi-headed microscopes, looking at the same slide and consulting that. So our system allows that to do remotely and replace this optical sharing with a digital one. So we believe there are many other areas that this augmentation of optical microscope could be useful. Currently, our focus is in pathology, but we are really open to collaborate with everybody on other potential applications. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your great presentation. I think it was worth waiting, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions to you, but I will take this opportunity to have a few first ones coming from my side since I'm already talking. So you discussed how Augmentiqs is an add-on, and you have augmented reality, which you add to the pathology. Would that be also possible to combine with other imaging techniques? Because current pathology also requires quite a lengthy and not really easy procedure of preparation of the sample, and especially since you're talking about telepathology in other countries, there might be that just due to preparation of the sample, it will be not as working as greatly because you also need a good material before you start analyzing the data on it. So basically the question is, would similar technology work together with other imaging modalities like second harmonic generation for collagen, fluorescence for cell, and so on. So to make it truly digital where you don't need to do the staining of the sample.
That's a really awesome question. Just speaking into our next development, we are now in development of another system based on this augmented reality microscopy for different imaging modalities, specifically fluorescence. And as a part of it, we're indeed looking into stainless imaging or artificial, what is called digital staining techniques that could help a lot with these kind of applications. I don't believe that at this point other imaging modalities could completely replace histopathology, slicing the tissue and looking under the microscope, but they certainly can augment that. And what we allow with our system is tagging with the specific locations the histopathology images, and that data could be transferred later for MRI or other kinds of imaging, just showing inside the 3D model where exactly the region of interest was located. That's absolutely something which could be done.
Okay, and I will allow myself another question. So with this augmentation of this image analysis, where there is also suggestions of what basically you're looking at, would it be also next step where it would be in a way replacing pathologists and give at least a suggestion on diagnostics of that slide?
Absolutely. The main trend today in digital imaging in pathology is called whole slide imaging, where the slides are digitized completely, and it's done with huge systems, including robotic slide changers that using not doctors but technicians. The slides are digitized. It takes a lot of time, but eventually it takes zero time from doctors. This effort is worth only in case that's why actually it's done today, that the actual workflow will be reduced. The time takes to analyze each slide will be reduced by using algorithms that will screen the negative slides automatically, leaving for doctors only to look at, let's say, 15% or so of positive slides or suspicious slides, that way improving the workflow efficiency a lot. Unfortunately, today, there are no FDA-approved algorithms that could show sensitivity and specificity good enough, because they're good enough to be employed in clinical settings. And the major reason for that is that pathology is one of the most subjective fields in the medicine, where it takes a lot of years for an expert pathologist to gain his experience, and the questions rise in something like 20%, 25% of marginal cases. In clear-cut cases, we can find algorithms are performing great. The problem is 25% of marginal cases and 5% of cases where among 5 doctors, 3 have one opinion and 2 have another opinion. And then they go to peer review, make consensus. In those cases, it's really hard for algorithms to get the accuracy of human experts. So that's the place where we come from, that we believe that algorithms will be there and they will take, let's say, 80% of the workload of the whole pathology in the world, but eventually there will be 20% that microscopes will remain the major tool. And that's where we are going.
Thanks a lot. We have more questions for you. We have a question from Michael from Fraunhofer IPMS. Michael, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, hello everyone. I have a very simple question. It seems that you need a micro display or whatever inside your system to actually generate the information. My simple question is, what display technology are you using in your system?
We tried a lot of different methods. Most of them were simply not bright enough. OLED displays don't have enough brightness. So today we are using LCOS technology.
Okay, thank you. Michael, why wouldn't you share with us also a little bit about Fraunhofer IPMS?
Yes, I can do so.
Technologies and medical devices.
Yeah, I can try to share my screen. Can you see it? Maybe just a quick.
Yes, it is here.
Okay, so then just 2 slides actually. What we are doing as EPIC member. So I'm the head of a very or somewhat unusual construction inside the Fraunhofer Society. You're probably aware of Fraunhofer as the biggest organization for applied research here in Germany. And at those project hubs, as we call it, we're combining the competences of different institutes under one roof. And we have one project hub, which is led by myself, on microelectronic and optical systems for biomedicine, or short MIOS, as we call it. And that's a joint effort of 3 Fraunhofer institutes for the Fraunhofer IPMS for photonic microsystems, working on optical MEMS devices and detectors and so on. So on the more MEMS side and microelectronic side of the ecosystem, we have the optics people from Fraunhofer IOF from Jena, working on micro optics and optical system design. And in the same building, we also have the life science people from Fraunhofer. So they guide us what we actually shall develop, and what the new trends in diagnostics and imaging and so on are, so that we don't go into the wrong direction, what's not needed by the market. And and currently we are inside this project hub. We are grouping our applied research into 3 technology platforms. One is on so-called structured illumination. That means optical modules for selective illumination in high-resolution optical microscopy, or even for triggering certain processes inside cells, which is then optogenetics. And this is based on the spatial light modulators of Fraunhofer IPMS. So to a certain degree, similar to what Texas Instruments is doing as DLP devices. So up to several million tiny mirrors on one individual chip that can be tilted individually. But we are doing things different than Texas Instruments. So it actually has some advantages for optical imaging. Then we're building complete systems, what we call advanced imaging. Especially miniaturized systems for light sheet microscopy. We have come up with a system for in situ tumor diagnosis, and also ultra-flat microscopes for lab-on-chip applications using multi-aperture optics. And finally, we do optical diagnosis based on silicon nitride structures for optical analysis of body fluids. And we're also we also have technologies for gas analysis, but I have to stop here because that's not a photonic system. So that's the only slide that I have for presenting what the Fraunhofer Project Hub MIOS is doing.
Okay, thank you so very much for sharing this with us. We actually have a question from our innovation manager, who is very curious about how do you make in situ tumor diagnostics?
That's
elaborate a bit.
At the end, it's a confocal laser scanning fluorescence microscope that we have built, and it also has an optical MEMS device for the 2D scanning of the laser beam that's needed for that. And that by using this special MEMS device, we were able to shrink down the size to something 30 centimeter times 15 times 5 centimeter in that range, so it can be used inside the surgery room. Of course, not handheld. It must be fixed somehow inside the surgery room, but it can be used inside, and it has an image. It's used in combination with some coloring techniques developed by our life science colleagues, and some image processing algorithms, so that we can determine between tumor cells and non-tumor cells directly in real time. And it will be. It's now close to finishing the R&D work, and it will then be tested with the local hospital here in Erfurt, with the director of the clinics for neurosurgery, to test it actually and samples from brain surgery.
So perhaps an add-on such as developed by Augmentiqs could be also something useful for you.
Indeed, that was one idea that that the system that Augmentiqs has, of course, in a modified fashion, could actually help to show the surgeon what's going on there, and if there are tumor cells or not, or what's the size of the cells or whatever. Yes, that I could imagine that combining those two things would be beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds that way. I have another question to Dan. Dan, as we are talking about Augmentiqs add-on, it is all about augmented reality, so algorithm. But what are the requirements more from photonics components from the hardware side and to the device itself? And maybe you have some certain wish list requirements towards a microscope system. And I think we have you muted again.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
One of the challenges that we had to overcome was the display, the projection display, in which requires very high pixel count to get the seamless, what Apple calls the retina display, where the pixel size is comparable to the resolution of the rows and cones of the human eye. Eventually, today we are about HD ready resolution, and there are no technology today available for higher resolutions, which could be really beneficial to make the experience of this augmentation seamless. Regarding components, it's basically a microscope accessory, so we use actually no fancy optics there. It's pretty standard microscope optics, beam splitters and filters and so on. Another thing, which is the imaging cameras, we could benefit from more sensitive cameras with higher physical dimensions, so like 1 inch and beyond, which is probably pretty standard for a microscopy. Microscopy is hungry for photons, as you all know probably. And that are pretty much what we expect in the next years to provide to develop our kind of systems.
Great, thank you. When we are talking about microscope optics or optics in general, we cannot skip a company which is called Chroma Technology. We all know it, but let's hear from Chroma also a little bit more about your current projects and how you are working in medical domain. What are the current demands for optics and filters? Greg, Jeff, which of you will comment? Who's first?
I don't know if Jeff is already in the discussion. If not, then I can give you a quick answer. We at Chroma, we are already in the biomedical diagnostic market for several years. And with the upcoming pandemic situation a year ago, we saw a certain decrease in demanding our filter, especially for the real-time PCR technology. And this is going on at the moment. We see some consolidation in the market the last weeks, and we are looking for the rest of the year that we see some decreasing numbers in filters for this market, but the medical diagnostic market, at least, is still very interesting and still growing.
Great, thank you very much. I think we should move on with our discussion, but also with our presentations. We have the final presentation saved one, which I'm personally very excited about. It's a presentation from Armando from Ophthalmology. It will
Armando from
very...
Ophthalmology, he's going to talk to us about aesthetics. He's going to talk to us about epidural. It's the best way to finish the meeting. This will be our last presentation. I would like to remind everyone that when the meeting finishes, the most important part of the meeting is the follow-up. So when the presentation finishes, you will all get a little link in the chat there. All you have to do is click on the link and close Zoom, and then you will appear an environment for all of us to get to know each other and do business. One part is to know how we can help. The other thing is to tell each other what is the next step on this follow-up. This is a very important meeting for Epic. Medical is very important. So please make sure you stay until the end of the presentation. When the presentation finishes, you click on the link. Even if you only have 5 minutes, I promise you, it will be totally worth it. Now we go to often medical, often medical. We often need to hear from often. The floor and the attention of everyone in the medical industry goes to Armando Ricciardi. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Elena, for this kind and very nice introduction. So I'm Armando. I'm the president and the founder of this small startup that was founded 2 years ago. We are a spin-off of University of Sannio in Benevento, a small city very close to Naples in the south of Italy. Our mission is basically to make innovation in epidural anesthesia. Probably most of you know what epidural is considered the most commonly performed procedure for pain relief. Just think about labors and delivery stuff. And it is estimated that about 3% of population every year undergo an epidural. And consequently, there is a very huge market. It is estimated to be 1 billion United States. So it's about 2 times 2 billions in Europe. So there is, of course, a problem with epidurals because currently the doctors use still a manual approach to perform this procedure. And both the insertion of the needle and the subsequent insertion of the catheter is made by hand. And in particular, the technique that the doctors use now is called loss of resistance technique, because basically they apply some pressure that can be continuous or intermittent to the plunger of the syringe while advancing the needle. And when the needle tip enters the epidural space, that is an empty space, that is covered by a very hard medium, it's called ligamentum flavum, they feel the loss of resistance on the syringe plunger. So the success basically depends on the experience of the doctor, and that to 30% of failures are registered. So there is a very clear clinical need. That's the reason why we decided to start with this project. And we developed the device that is shown in the slide on the left part. You can see an optical interrogator, because all the system is based on very well assessed optical fiber sensing technology. It's based on fiber ratings. You can see the unit system that is composed by the optical interrogator, and the optical fiber is connected to this interrogator. The optical fiber on its turn is inserted inside the medical catheter that is inserted inside the medical needle. And it is blocked to it through this component. This is blocking sliding system. And with respect to, of course, the standard kit, the standard procedure, we can offer a lot of advantages. And in particular, we are able, thanks to the sensorization of the catheter, to be able to provide to the doctor the perception or the feeling to reach not only the epidural space through the needle, but also to guide the catheter inside the epidural space once that the epidural space has been correctly placed into the human spine. That's why, just let me clarify this important, because this is an important point. Because once that you have reached the epidural space with needle, sometimes a catheter inserted through the needle and left into the patient's back for the successive administration of drugs, because in principle you cannot see for how long you feel pain. That's the reason why the administration of drugs is made by successive administration through the catheter itself. In this slide, you can see that the prototype that we have developed and we have tested already on animal. And you can see here the trace, the typical trace that we register when we perform an epidural. The first part of the slide, you see the needle placement curve. Basically, we measure through the fiber grating that is inserted into the needle. We measure the force or the pressure that is experienced during the procedure. And when you enter inside the epidural space, there is a clear feature that helps us to understand that we are in the correct position. At the same time, when the needle has been inserted, is correctly inserted into the epidural space, then we can move the catheter. And our sensor allows us not only to detect pressure, but also to detect some bending. So we are able to understand if the catheter is not correctly positioned inside the epidural space, because sometimes when you insert the catheter, it starts to bend and finish in some parts for which the successive administration of drug is not effective. So what are the situation now? So we have the prototype. We are now we are carrying out the engineering phase of our project, and this is the timeline of our project. So we are ready to have submitted the study to the Italian Ministry of Health for the animal study. So we are just, once again, we are just ready to try to test the engineered version of our device. So what are we looking for? We're looking for partners that can help us to provide solutions for fiber grating suppliers, as obvious, because it's the technology on which our device is based. Same for FPGAs, integrated systems, in particular for very simple OEM models, because most of the systems that are on the market are really overkilled for our application, because we need very simple characteristics for interrogating our device. And of course, we are also interested in finding some, share with you some experience about integration of optical fibers in medical catheters, because I know that there are a lot of other application of optical fibers to medical fields. And if there is someone of you that wants to share with us a possible experience on catheter, optical fiber and catheter integration, we are happy to do that. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
I can't love this presentation more. This is fantastic. What you are doing, bringing fiber grating technology to the medical industry and going through all this process yourself in 2 years. Well, I wish you all the best. And if there is anything I can do to help you from the EPIC network, we will do. You are very important for our industry, bringing fiber gratings to the market. I would like to ask you something very important, which is in the next 2 years, is there any particular partner? I know you ask about fibers and interrogators, and that's interesting, but any particular partner anywhere that could help you in these 2 years that you still are not in touch with? And let me find it for you.
Oh, is a question. So of course, we have established a lot of collaboration so far for system integrations. Okay, we are in touch with some partnership with some partner interested in collaborating with us for this task that we are that I have explained to you so far. But at this stage, we haven't signed any kind of agreement, so we are still looking for this kind of our partner. So we are.
When it comes to helping companies commercialize their products, I really always look up to, from the University of Denmark, TTU, I always look up to Lars Lindfold. Lars, how did this presentation resonate with you? And what do you think, who can help them?
A lot. Very nice presentation, Armando.
Thank you.
The thing is, we do actually have a company called shoot technologies, and they are involved with fiber optical bright gratings, not for medical applications, for something entirely different. But they do this stuff, and we have the capabilities at DTU both for quartz grating, for quartz fibers and for polymer fibers. And actually, I think polymer fibers will be all you need, because you don't have to travel, the light doesn't have to travel very far in your application.
No, our application is very simple.
Yeah, so I'll definitely make certain that you are connected with some of my good buddies from this company.
Okay, thank you so much.
Furthermore, we have a question from nView Medical. Christian, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just curious about how do you segment the different applications that you have in mind for the smart needle, by anatomy or by challenge. So I was just curious about that. And then if you see in any of these segments, do you see any need to have some localization technology, whether it's ultrasound or navigation or fluoroscopy?
Thank you for the question, very interesting. Well, our device is suitable for placing needle in some biological compartments of our body, in which you should insert the needle in these compartments without going too far, because if you go too far, you risk to damage the next tissue. That's the case of epidural space. We have found other applications. For example, for I can say I don't know exactly the English term for this. For well, you can help me. Pneumology interventistica. You know the
interventional pulmonology.
Interventional pulmonology. Yes, you have more or less the same problem. You have to put the needle in a specific place without going too far. So you can easily consider our sensor like a spring that fits the deformation, when dependent according to the consistency of all the tissues that you penetrate during the insertion, different forces are registered. And when the spring is compressed, then you enter the space and you feel a relaxation of the spring. Our technology is very, very useful in all the applications where standard imaging approaches, such as ultrasounds, for example, or X-ray, cannot be performed. Think about epidurals. You have a lot of bones because the epidural space is very close to the human spine. So ultrasounds does work very well in this kind of application. And X-ray, for example, cannot be used with the pregnant women because you can easily understand the reasons. And that's the reason why no clinical application where you have this particular objective, placing the needle in a specific place without damaging the all-around tissue, and where at the same time, standard imaging techniques cannot be used with an easy way, or because probably they are too expensive. Our technology can help the doctors to achieve the goal.
For me, Armando, what you're doing is very unique, very special, and also really important for the industry. So I want to wish you all the best. My advice would be to partner with a manufacturing company. That would be my advice, because believe me, it's very difficult to go through the path that you are doing, and afterwards, when you are at the end, realize that it's not manufacturable. So as soon as possible, companies like ProDrive Technologies, which by the way, they are in the room, or Cambridge Consultants, also talk to Lars from DTU. These people are really important, because after these 2 years, you want to have a very, very short time to market. It's been fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for a great meeting. You know, it was only 2 hours, and 2 hours and 7 minutes, sorry for that, but we learned a lot. First of all, I keep saying there's a huge problem. This 10 years time to market, the photonic industry needs to be reduced. And for that, we need the large medical system integrators. So once again, large medical system integrators, I'm gonna keep knocking. Nobody's ever gonna stop me. We learned from the Cambridge consultants that they are really looking at the adaptive optics. And we also heard from Imasenic, detection of atrophic lesions. Fast detection of them is something growing. We keep seeing success stories in the laser diodes from 400 nanometer to 2 micrometer laser diodes. And we are seeing photodynamic therapy and ophthalmology, two important markets that are being developed all the way to having already instrument in clinics in centers. We see short pulse lasers, even the 50-second pulse lasers, how the eye surgery sector is growing. We heard from nView Medical and Caeleste about 3D X-ray for surgical imaging. We love the Augmentiqs success story. We really love the augmented reality combined with microscopy. They are looking for high definition, ultra high definition displays, huge opportunity. And we also heard often medical with the FVGs, with the fiber Bragg ratings for catheters in smart epidurals. This is the revolution. We want to help them. All I want to say is that even though you think the meeting is finished, it's not. If you only have 5 minutes left, we go now to a different room. But everybody who is now watching in YouTube is going to watch this meeting later. Remember, we are here to connect companies. If you want to get in touch with any of the participants today, drop me a line, send me an email, jose.pozo@epic-asoc.com. I love making these introductions, and especially if you are a large medical company and you missed the meeting today, we're going to do this every 3 months. We're going to have a medical meeting every 3 months. Next time we want you there. And I'm talking to Olympus, Boston Scientific, Medtronic, Stryker, Merck, all of you. I want you with our network in Epic. We don't bite. We just need photonic industry to reach as fast as possible the medical market, make lives of patients easier, and save lives. Until the next time, take care of each other, wash your hands, wear a mask, because very soon we're going to be traveling again. Bye-bye.